It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
And I say, insect or man, death should always be painless.
She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I caught him, Sheriff. Wait, who is that? Billy Loomis. Sir?
Pardon me, I'm Loomis, Dr. Sam Loomis.
I think our friend Sam Loomis didn't know that Marion was here.
Oh, Sam, I hate having to be with you in a place like this.
Well, just listen to me. When you go down the street to the Mackenzie's house, I want you to tell them to call the police.
Your car. Drive down to the Mackenzies.
We must be mad. Literally mad.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. It was fun.
Good evening, chat. How are you doing? I hope you're fine on this lovely evening on which we're running the 81st episode of Double Feature Horror Show 81. That creeps up, doesn't it? My goodness. My goodness. We are in the second week of Gialloctober, and I think we're seeing things look up. I've got a positive feeling about this one. How about yourself, TCG?
Yeah. Yeah, this was definitely an improvement on the last two ones you've recommended, I have to say.
It's all looking up. It's all looking up.
But when I say improvement, like this is relatively speaking, I mean we're talking like a 1 and like a 3 burgers. So let's see.
I've come around on this one. I've bumped it up at least a burger.
Well, yeah, there is an increase of at least 1, but I will leave my score until the end.
Okay, all right, we'll get there. We'll get there. And we're also welcoming back Shrouded Hand, a keen appreciator of all things gory and banned in the 80s. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, sounds fair. Yeah. Hi there.
There's a charm to it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of front-loaded the gore, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it really did. It's a bit misleading, wasn't it? You've got that first kill, and then afterwards, it really it rose it back.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk all about the black belly of the tarantula pretty soon. Yes, I chose it for the title. Why would I not? I'm seeing a high-class chat tonight that we have the Earl of Stair and the Duke of Bedford. You are keeping it classy, guys. You're going to be the classiest thing about this stream, I'm going to be honest with you. But we'll try and raise the standard. When you deal with Italian giallo horror, I wouldn't call it restrained. I wouldn't call it reserved. I think that's fair to say.
Do you know, I'm gonna say this now, just gonna get this out of the way. But this, and it's only because I've been researching it. But this killer, man, he gave me Ivan Milat vibes.
Interesting. What was it about that? Like
the paralyzing his victims, and
of course, yeah,
doing the bad stuff while he was still alive.
He did have a more sophisticated method of paralyzing his victims than Ivan Milat. But we should do a quick intro to that. TCG, you've got a very relevant shill if you want to just let people know.
Yeah, so as part of a collaboration that Horrorshow and I are doing, where we're actually looking at the real life story or the real Wolf Creek story of Ivan Milat over on my channel. In fact, the video to that has dropped about an hour ago, so you can go and check that out. But we've also over here, we're looking at the movie, and Horrorshow and I had a discussion about the movie itself and sort of had an overview of the differences and the similarities between what happened in real life and compared that to what took place in the movie, and just looked at sort of how much the Ivan Milat story inspired that movie. It was a really good conversation that we had, and that should be, I think that's coming on your channel tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that tomorrow, so you can enjoy that bit. Watch TCG's video first if you haven't already. That will give you a bit of a good grounding in what they based the movie on, or what they, well, let's say the movie did wander a fair way. In some ways that we actually appreciated. This real horror versus real horror format. The first one I did was with Shrouded Hand, where we looked at Ghost Watch, and I nearly said Goat Watch, and I was trying so hard, don't say Goat Watch, and I messed it up.
That was an awesome conversation. I love that. I love the Ghost Watch story, and I love the analysis you two gave. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, it pained me to cut that down, actually, because we talked for about an hour and a half and I brought it down to 50 minutes. So I might release a longer version elsewhere when I record in the future, because it's sad to have to cut so much out.
Yeah, it was fun discussion.
Yeah, and people appreciated it. Lots of comments. I would say lots of comments of a very specific nature that did inspire me. Now, I had been warned by the NREAB that people who've been trying to join the channel have been having problems with that. YouTube's been bouncing them. So you can still try it on YouTube. I know some people are managing to join. Thank you very much to everyone who has. But you can also join on Subscribestar. There is a link in the description. But I just thought, since if Susan is making it a bit hard for me to get the money to fund the more ambitious projects, I did come up with a new way of bringing in a bit of income, inspired by the comments that I received on that video.
No, don't do it.
There was a lot of thirst in the comments, basically, a heck of a lot of thirst. And so I thought, let's capitalize on it. Calendars. What about this? Huh?
Oh, no.
Yeah, for all my guests. I assure you, there is appetite out there. Yeah?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Shrouded?
I don't know how you got that picture of me. I don't remember posing for this.
It's cool. It's cool. The old holiday snaps have leaked. And TCG, don't worry. I see the comments you get as well. And I've got you covered. We'll work out some kind of profit sharing that, this is all for a good cause. This is also, I can make the series about Blockbuster, its downfall, its significance, its meteoric rise, and what it all means for cinema going and film watching.
Lovely. That's quite an impressive picture. I think I might put that on my socials.
You're very welcome.
If everyone else can fake their appearance, then I might as well do it as well. There we go. Sometimes
you I miss Harry. He'd be so annoyed at this bit.
He'd be fuming.
You know what? It's been a while. I think I just need to message him lots of topless dudes again, because he's been missing out while he's not on stream. But he is coming back at the end of the month, so maybe we'll work up some special imagery for him for that.
Oh, we should do, definitely.
Yeah. Well, if you don't fancy a thirst quenching calendar of my wonderfully talented and erudite guests who have allowed me to, somewhat objectify them here, then you can, of course, support in all the regular ways. But that's enough shilling from me. On the topic side of things, I've been a tad scuppered, and I'm going to play you some footage just to enjoy while I talk, because I was going to do BBFC History Part 9, which was going to cover the future of the British Board of Film Classification. And I know everyone loves the BBFC history stuff, but Maverick, blessed, that The stream is sainted. I'm sure that's what you meant to type. Yeah, I was going to do a sort of round off on what the future of the BBFC history was. And they've only gone and appointed a new president.
No.
Yeah. How dare they? How dare they?
Well, they got to keep they got to keep these parts coming out. I mean, we can't just end the BBFC series, surely.
Well, I'm sure no one in chat or the audience is, like desperate for the BBFC History series to end, because think how many more times I could play the theme song.
Yes.
But so I'll just talk about this very quickly, because I do want to do a bit of more research into it. But and I'll leave the chicken footage going. I had a bit of fun trying to get some slow-mo footage of the girls, and of course Mochi, who is the grey chicken. He is our rooster. So I hope you're appreciating that. And I don't know if you guys had heard about this, but the BBFC has announced that Natasha Kaplinsky, OBE, is going to be their new president, taking over from Patrick Swayfer, who has been in he's been in place for about 10 years.
She was a journo.
She was indeed a journo.
And she was on Strictly.
Oh, I'll trust you on that one.
Yeah, you'll have to.
Yeah, it's not unusual.
Her name is familiar. I don't.
Yeah, she's quite well known. I mean, this is an unusual one. You don't think you usually get someone who's quite a well-known name leading the BBFC. I'd say probably the closest we got back in the day was John Trevelyan, who was connected to a pretty powerful family. But even then, it's an unusual one. So she's coming in from 17th of October 2022. And I was trying to work out what's this going to mean. And I looked at their press release just to get an idea. And they're really emphasizing her work with children here. So let me have a quick read here. Right. The president also chairs the BBFC's Advisory Council on Children's Viewing. The APCV, weird acronym, advises the BBFC on issues concerning children and young people. Its members provide a wide range of skills and expertise connected with child welfare and contribute to the development of BBFC policy. They also note Kaplinsky will be championing the BBFC's year-round education and outreach activity, and will be meeting with the BBFC youth panel in the coming months. I think the BBFC is trying to say she's down with the kids.
Oh gosh, really?
Well, I was trying to work it out. Everything they're mentioning here is to do with children or women and girls. Like literally everything. You can read this on their announcements. It also mentions she got the OBE for services to Holocaust commemoration, as she's been apparently doing a bit of activity journalism regarding that.
Okay.
And then when they actually quote her, she's mentioning children again. So I'll just read her statement in full. Natasha Kaplinsky, OBE, said, by the way, hi chat, if you've only just hopped on, yes, this is discussing a horror movie, even though I am playing slow motion footage of chickens and reading about the appointment to the president of the BBFC. We will cover horror. It is relevant. This must be so confusing to people who drop in the stream. Anyway.
Yeah.
The BBFC... Sorry, mate, go ahead.
I was saying, here's a horror film. Natasha Kaplinsky has taken over the BBFC.
Why is there slow motion footage of a rooster and talking about a Strictly contestant? What is this stream? Why am I lost? The BBFC is accountable to the government, parliament, local authorities, and to people across the UK. It is clear that it takes its accountability seriously alongside the impartial nature of its role. I'm not going to laugh. We all know the BBFC is very impartial. We all agree with this. I'll let that run again. Gosh. How impartial do you reckon the BBFC has been, chat? Let me know. For over a century, the BBFC has done fantastic work to help families have a positive viewing experience wherever and however they watch content. It's crucial that children's welfare is at the forefront of policy decision-making, and this is central to the BBFC's efforts in the online safety space. I am really excited to bring my knowledge and experience to help guide the BBFC in its 110th year and beyond. The challenges that young people face now in the UK are greater than ever before, and I am committed to giving voice to their needs. I can't wait for the opportunities that this next chapter will bring. Okay, folks.
Okay, what are you trying to make of this? What are you making of this?
I think there is a very strong signalling that the BBFC is going to be directing a lot more attention to online content. Basically, that's why there's a lot of mention of children and online spaces. The mention of the work with the Holocaust Memorial Trust, I assume, will be, if you're talking online stuff and monitoring online, you will always mention extremism.
Right.
And so I think it's basically a signalling that the BBFC is going to get very involved in online rating and online, let's say, suitability of content, basically.
Yeah, there's been a lot of in the news highlighting of stories relating to that. So there's been one recently about a girl that killed herself.
Oh, goodness.
Apparently, after reading some online comments,
yes.
it's a pretty tragic case. But I've noticed there's been a lot of they seem to highlight these cases more and more. And it's as if they're building up to something, to censorship.
Basically, yeah, this will be there is another reference here to the BBFC has expanded far beyond its remit, which is quite a fun admission that they. I've recorded a bonus video that members saw yesterday where I have fun pointing out that the BBFC has to rate all the HR videos you watch. Chat, if you've ever watched those HR videos when you join an organization, they had to pay the BBFC to be rated. Just think of that.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, they cover everything. So this looks to me like, so 100% they are going to be working with VODs, streaming services, and probably YouTube. I think the age of them having their own standards is probably going.
Oh, Shrouded, that's us buggered, isn't it?
Well, it happens on YouTube. Must have been some American law involving content for children where they had to suddenly implement all this new restrictions and things, didn't they? All these kids channels. Yeah, something like that. All these kids channels had to suddenly change their content, and now when you upload a video, you've got to click the button that says no, it's not made for kids.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it might be just more of that sort of thing.
That is literally, well, not literally, but it's American imperialism imposing on us Brits, because it's it's an American law, but it applies globally. Thank you, thank you so much.
There might be more of any content in the UK has now got to apply some new law that's sort of about the safety of children in the UK. I don't know.
Shrouded, I can imagine you are on the money.
Yeah.
You are on the money.
I'll say we're going to have to tick two buttons now when we're uploading, aren't we?
Yeah.
One for the Americans and one for ourselves.
I reckon so. So you heard it here first, folks. Keep an eye out for this in the news. If you suddenly see a big change in Amazon Prime or Netflix or Shudder, of course, we all love Shudder, even though they don't currently sponsor this channel. We do appreciate what they do. And were they to throw tons of money in my direction for their fine service, it would not change our impartial assessment of their high-quality streaming service.
Absolutely. Look, guys, Shudder, if you're listening, we'll just settle for a free subscription.
Yeah, to be honest, I'll take that, to be honest. By the way, I have seen some coming. Cherry Bars, bless you. Yeah, you are the person who I was like, oh, bless you. You came for horror and you got chickens. I hope you like them. That is mochi doing his thing there.
The video's not finished yet.
And I'm glad you are appreciating the chickens there. I'll go back to the more relevant content. So I am going to be having a little look at that in more depth. And hang on. I'm going to look at it in more depth, and we will round off our BBFC history series soon. But I just want you to remember that I made that prediction. Also, Joe, good to see you, man. This guy's been leaving really good comments. We've been having a good discussion. It's good to see you on stream, man. Glad you could make it. So, Maverick, no, genuinely, I really like Shudder. Shudder are amazing. They've got lots of niche stuff. I would like them to do more very old content, but probably everyone has a niche area that they're particularly interested in. You know, I do really appreciate what they do. I really like that they were funding some more obscure stuff, like the Indonesian Queen of Black Magic. Really enjoyed that. So, big fan of Shudder. Generally, I was just having fun with how much of a disgraceful shiller I am. Anyway, so that was a uncharacteristically brief discussion of the BBFC. Shall we discuss tonight's feature, The Black Belly of the Tarantula? Does anyone want to try that title in Italian?
La Tarantula. Do you know what? When I was just I tried it, butchered it. La Tarantula dal ventre nero.
Nice.
There you go.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that, definitely. Yeah, I can't do Italian. German, I can help you out, but no, unfortunately not. And Germany's horror game, I've got to say, is pretty darn weak. Think about it. How many German horrors do you know?
Well, I've not watched a lot of German horror.
Yeah.
Was there one called Funny Games? Is that a German one?
Austrian.
Funny Games.
Austrian.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was trying to do an arc on German horror, and it's just there's just not much there, unfortunately, unless you get super old. But yeah. But sorry, that's leading us off. We should be discussing The Black Belly of the Tarantula, which is from Paolo Cavera. Now, this is not a particularly well-known director in this sphere, and I would venture he's underappreciated. He started off doing a lot of travel photography of a rather dangerous nature. He was doing all the photography for Mondo Cane, visiting dangerous parts of the world. And he never seemed to do the major genre stuff. I don't think he ever got accepted into the mainstream. So he's always kind of an outside figure. And I was interested in this just because I don't see people talk about Cavera. One of my main go-to guides for researching nightmare movies by Kim Newman has no mention of this film in the index, and it has precisely one reference to Cavera in the whole thing. And it just says this in reference to Dario Argento, who we are covering next week. Argento habitually refers to Agatha Christie and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but the world of his whodunits is far removed from the tidy, meaningless puzzles of the English country house weekend massacre. Argento's amateur detectives are not scientific observers with a purely academic interest in the case, except in Il Gatto, the weakest of the early films, but alienated artists caught up in a paranoid nightmare. I really like that description. The unprecedented success of L'Uccello led to a mini-boom in imitative whodunits, like Lucio Fulci's, I'm not going to read that, Lizard in a Woman's Skin, 1971, Mario Caino's L'Occhio nel Labirinto, English title, Blood. Gosh darn it, why didn't I skip to that?
Maverick has it right. If you do the finger pinch, you should be able to get it. You should be able to nail it first time.
I'm going to pinch the fingers. Here we go. Paolo Cavera's La Tarantula del Ventre Nero. Oh gosh, it worked.
There you
The
go.
Black Belly of the Tarantula, 1971. These are all 1971, you notice. Miraglia's The Red Queen Kills 7 Times. I love these titles so much, man. Sergio Pastoro's The Crimes of the Black Cat. These are amazing. And there's The Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll. Great titles. That is the only reference to Cavera in the whole book. But I thought it's going to be interesting just because people don't cover him. He was getting in on the early side of giallo, while the genre is still forming, whilst it was still, I guess, in the stage of taking influences rather than being an influence. Paris, where's Shrouded Hand? My boy Shrouded is right here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Unfortunately, in the early stages, I'm setting the scene and I'm rabbiting on, but just trying to say why we want to cover this one. And largely, people cover giallo and they skip this. I don't think I've ever seen anyone cover this. And so I thought it would be interesting if we winded it out. Now, as we should do, because this was not particularly easy to find, we should do the Pint of Guinness challenge. Do either of you want to volunteer to give us the Pint of Guinness summary?
I will pass it off to Shrouded.
Oh, God.
Sorry, Shrouded.
But before you do it, just to give you a moment, I'm just looking at the IMDb for this film, and there's an interesting little trivia fact about this. Apparently, 3 Bond girls appeared in this film. You've got Claudine Auger, she was the female lead in Thunderball. You had Barbara Bach, who on to have the female lead in The Spy Who Loved Me, and Barbara Boucher, who was in Casino Royale. The first 2 appeared in Eon Bond movies, while the third appeared in a non-Eon Bond movie, which was a spoof. There you go.
Barbara Bach is apparently married to Ringo Starr.
Oh, really?
That's amazing. Parism, I'm so sorry, mate. You've come into a horror stream and I've hit you with BBFC. Just so you know, we start off with a topic and then we discuss the movie. So BBFC is a British Board of Film Classification. Skip past it if it's quite inside baseball, if it's not your thing. So I'm not going to blame you. Okay, right. We're ready for the Pint of Guinness challenge. So,
I always mess this up.
Don't worry, I believe in you. I believe in you. In the time it takes to pour a pint of Guinness, give people a rough overview of this film.
Okay, well, what you've got is your sort of classic, stylish, ultra stylish Italian slasher and whodunit type of movie. And I guess the hook here is that the killer uses an acupuncture needle in the back of the neck to paralyze his victims so that they're awake but completely immobilized while he's killing them. And it just follows the cops as they try and track down this mysterious killer. And yeah, as you can see there, you mostly just see his hand for most of the movie, and it's in this weird rubber glove that makes him look almost like a mannequin.
I was thinking that, yeah.
And I can't really think of what else to say without giving away the plot completely. So
that is pretty much it, though, isn't it? It is this film. When I think of giallo films, or giallo, I'm pinching the fingers now, I do think of those sort of horror films that we've been watching the last few weeks. So this was a bit of a curveball for me because it was literally just like a whodunit.
Yeah. Well, this is what I like from watching these giallo type films. This is kind of what I was thinking of more. I've seen quite a few like this where, especially where you see the hand. That's so classic to me, and the sets as well. The really stylish backdrops to all the killings. That's really really made me feel that this was a classic giallo type of film. So yeah.
There was one shot that kind of I'm basically bumping the score up 2 points for one shot alone. And I tried so hard to get the moment that we have a glint, but they framed it so the knife glints, and it was so gorgeous. And I just couldn't get that moment, so I gave up. But this shot alone, I thought was amazing. And like classic giallo as well, right?
Very artsy, isn't it?
So
those hands, man. I was debating. I was considering throughout the film whether those hands were actually real or not, because, like Shrouded said, they do look like mannequin hands.
Yeah.
It's so uncanny. Like, it could just be gloves. It could be black leather gloves, but he chooses to make it so it looks like mannequin. And then the second killing is set in a store surrounded by mannequins.
Yeah.
So I think you are meant to think that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brundlefly's come in with something that's really important. What we've covered so far has actually been kind of weird for giallo. So we've covered 2 zombies. We've done Fulci's zombie flesh eaters and City of the Living Dead. But this is more classic. This is the killer going really extreme, and someone who is not a policeman tries to track them down. And it's obviously like spun off detective stuff, but it really reminded me of, like, you know, in the early 2000s, you got all the detective thrillers that started going really like horrors. You know, like Wire in the Blood. Yeah.
I've just watched all of that recently.
Yeah, but it's got that feeling, right?
Yeah,
like,
we're
going to do a police drama, but we're going to push it into the horror territory.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of Wire in the Blood while I was watching this. I was thinking, this is, I don't know, they must have influenced it.
I was thinking the first season of Whitechapel.
Yeah, Whitechapel, yeah.
I love that so much. That was, it's such a little gem. Like, the second goes into a really weird territory.
Yeah.
It goes back on track after the second, I think.
Sorry, mate, I cut you off there.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, I think I'd finished. I just said, it goes back on track in like 3rd and 4th season, doesn't it?
It totally reinvents itself. It moved over to the BBC after season 2, and they just completely reworked it and gave you shorter mysteries that I wasn't sure about, but that I ended up really liking them.
Yeah.
This is more your classic giallo style. We're talking about a killer who's killing in a memorable way. Lots of very attractive Italian girls with very little clothing on. And, of course, really dodgy dubbing.
I'm getting used to the dubbing now. I'm actually getting used to it. Yeah. I wasn't, because with the first 2 films that we covered, I was a bit like thrown, especially the first one more so. It was kind of all right with the second one, but this one I was in full swing. It didn't even really, I didn't really pick up on it. Well, I mean, I picked up on it, but it wasn't like at the forefront of my mind as I was watching this. I actually relatively enjoyed this movie, I will say.
Yeah, I struggle to follow the plot. I'm not going to lie. And that might just be my fault, lack of attention, or after a long day.
No, I had the same problem.
Okay.
I even rewound it at points. I think I must have missed something, and then I went all the way back, and it must just be confusing because I couldn't find any bits where I'd gone off track. So, yeah.
See, what I liked about this film was that it, again, because my experience with giallo is very, very limited, and we're talking like the 2 films that we've covered here. What I actually quite liked about this was that the detective had this like character arc, because one of the big things with him was that he felt like he was out of his depth with this particular investigation. He didn't feel like he was up to the task, and there are some bits in the film, he he openly admits that he's struggling. In fact, in one of the bits, he decides to hand his badge in. I can't do this, and he speaks to his other half about it, and and the other thing that he has to struggle with as well is his partner's poor financial and organizational skills.
Yeah.
I found that kind of a weird. Is it just because we are watching this 51 years on that stuff was hard to connect with? So, folks, if you haven't watched the film, what we're talking about is the first intro to the detective's girlfriend. She gives him a load of spiel about she sold loads of furniture for 600,000 lira, which I think is $6,000.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
He looked disappointed though.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, what?" And then she's, "Oh, was that a good price?" There's lots of toing and throwing over this, and it's just quite a weird thing that doesn't seem to do much.
But then it's like, but then like literally moments later, they get a knock on the door, and it's the people there to pick all the furniture up.
Yeah.
I'm like,
they're going to take the bag.
Not organize. Like you surely. She was like, "Oh, I didn't think they'd be here so soon." It's like, girl, you organised. What are you doing? Like you surely you would have known. And then it was so funny. They're like, "Well, we have to come and collect the stuff." And she's like, "No, you can't." It's like, my partner. He's like, "Oh, he needs to sleep on something soft tonight. He'll be so angry otherwise. He'll be very irritated afterwards. Otherwise." And then she just goes, "Oh, he's a detective." And they're like, "Okay, bye." That's so funny.
It's really weird.
It's just I think it's just a nice bit of like world building from kind of.
So I was looking at the comment.
Yeah. Brundle, I thought I'd highlight that. It's kind of the equivalent of our Pulp Fiction or Penny Dreadfuls. Yeah. I think you highlighted something that is really good for this, because this is one where I actually felt we had a protagonist with character.
Definitely.
I quite liked him.
Yeah. I like all that stuff in the flat with his girlfriend or wife, whoever it was. It's almost like they're just a young couple and they're sort of still setting up their house and getting things sorted and sort of getting used to each other almost. And you get this impression he's not like this hard-boiled detective who's completely jaded. He's still quite like fresh, and that's how he like reacts to the crime that he's investigating.
Yeah.
Spot on. And it's nice that it's not like a grizzled detective who can't take it anymore. Him being like a young detective who feels like massively over, how can I say, out of his depth. That was really good. I like that. It's maybe delivered a bit awkwardly sometimes, but he definitely has a character. And he goes on his little arc and he's challenged. And this is a massive step up in terms of character depth from what we had the last two times. So I give him points for that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, in terms of things that were confusing, I might look daft here. So I just want to ask you two. The second killing, did you think that was his girlfriend?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yes. I thought it was his girlfriend because I was like, oh, okay, right, that's going to send him on a warpath. And then like she pops up a bit later on and I'm like, oh, so that wasn't then. Okay.
Yeah. There was a few characters in this where I thought it was his girlfriend. Later on where that woman turns up and gives him a big envelope full of money. I was like, where's his girlfriend? Like, there was a lot of girls that looked kind of similar. Like they had that sort of lightish brown hair, and I just
well, there's two redheads, and one of them is on his side, and the other one isn't, unless they are the same. I got very confused. I couldn't tell them apart. And I feel quite bad about that, but I couldn't unpick it. Lots of this confused me.
Yeah.
Because this. Sorry, Shrouded.
No, I was just going to say there was just some bits where I feel like they just didn't. It felt like they just didn't set up the next scene, and they just jumped to something, and I'm thinking like, why are they here? And it was just a bit disjointed at some bits, I think.
Yeah, it's a part of the difficulty is that there are lots of scenes that we only see once and we don't go back there, which makes it hard to keep track of. And there are a lot of dead ends.
Yeah, like after this second killing, they go to some abandoned villa, and they're being led there by some guy, and it doesn't seem to be any setup to this. Why they're suddenly gone to this abandoned house? They're looking for the first murder victim's husband or something like that.
Yeah,
and I felt like it wasn't even established that he was like on the run or they were suspecting him or anything like that. It was just like, oh, I've seen him go into this building, and like, who was this guy who was leading them there? Like, I just felt like that bit. I was completely like thrown off. I just thought, why are they there? Who are they following? They just mentioned this is where I've seen what's the game? Sonny, Paolo Sonny. I saw Sonny go in there. I didn't even know the guy's name. So, you know,
yeah. They spend a lot of time. Well, their main suspect that they try and focus you on is Paolo Zani, and because his wife is the one who's murdered first. I'll just get this cap I got of this, because I mean I might say this a lot, guys, but this is a beautiful film. So this is I'll just check this. I never remember names. Yeah, it is Maria. Maria Zani is the first victim. And I think that is, that's Barbara Boucher, who people are talking about. Joe is referenced. Hey, Game Vault. I don't think if I haven't seen you before, welcome. And if I have, apologies. I am terrible with names, as you've picked up from me just forgetting one of the major characters here. But it is Maria.
Game Vault was just on my premiere.
Oh, good lad, man. Thanks for joining us over here. Yeah, so that is she is gorgeous, isn't she?
My wife listens to these, so I cannot confirm nor deny. But yes.
Yeah, this film is difficult. You don't want to watch with your wife around, I've got to say. You get a weird look. I mean, I'll show the clip from that first scene, that thing I had to take a photo of because it's so, sorry, a screenshot of, because it's so gorgeous. When the killer attacks her, you got it just in silhouettes. This looks so good.
It covers a lot of the mess up as well, you know. Because one thing I found about this film is that I don't really think they really had any sort of fight choreography. So having it in dark just sort of added to the. It almost felt sort of like natural in a way, the way that like certain characters were fighting at some certain points, because there was no real sort of structure to it in the way that like a real sort of fight or struggle would occur. So having that sort of dark atmosphere, I think it added to it. I think
it's a beautiful shot. It's very frenzied. An angle I'd like us to bear in mind is that I think this film is massively inspired by Psycho.
Okay. How so?
So, as with a lot of the mystery giallo, there's the effort to conceal the killer's identity, to really cover it up. There's a very different murder style. There's the amateurs trying to solve the matter, which is, that's very broad. But the main thing is, I think, the way it psychologizes at the end of the movie. That really made me think of how Psycho ended, where you have the psychologist come along and explain the movie to you.
Oh, okay. Somebody needed to explain it.
Yes. I'm not sure that explanation helped hugely, but, what can you do?
It was a bit of a information dump, wasn't it, at the end? I just felt like someone came in and went, this is why he did it at the end. It wasn't like... They could have like teased it out through the movie. Maybe had some like little hints to his why he was doing what he was doing and all of this.
Yeah.
But it was just like some guy comes in at the end and goes, right, so this was his mental health problems and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
we've
the last
assessed
30
him in the space of 40 minutes.
Yeah, they just sort of dumped it all on you in one sentence almost.
Could have taunted the investigator through letters. You know.
But we try. That's what we we always try and talk for longer than the length of the film. But be careful. Some people don't like the readings I go into, especially my reading of Fright Night. But that's another story. But that's why I like doing though. I mean, I think we always manage to find something that we can relate it to, why a decision was made, what influenced a thing. I think we can always do that, and it's a nice challenge. Yeah, but you do get the last 30 seconds psychiatrist to, oh yeah, he did it because he was getting cucked. And you're like, fair play. I totally guessed as well who it was the first time you seen him right at the beginning.
Oh my god!
I was writing down notes as I was going, and the first note is, if it's this guy, it's obvious. And I was like, yeah, I knew it.
Shrouded. I was going to ask you immediately. Did you guess immediately?
Straight away. I think it was because I've been watching so much Wire in the Blood recently.
Mm-hmm.
And on that show, there's always one character who sort of you see in the background and he looks a bit weird. And it always turns out to be that guy. And I just, I noticed this guy right at the beginning. You see him, and it's almost like they're not trying to show him too much, but I don't know. They're trying to. It's almost as if they're trying to make him out to be like a background character, but he stands out a bit too much so that you'll remember him.
It's
I immediately just thought, right, it's him.
Yeah, it's like that similar rule of sometimes just like the fact that someone is a bit more famous lets you know that they're the killer. Just because it's like, why would you pay for this person to be in your film if they aren't doing something significant?
Yeah.
Was he a famous guy?
No, I see that in modern production sometimes where you've got a mystery. I'm like, the only time it's gone wrong is in a film called Skeleton Key, where John Hurt is cast, and I was just expecting a major revelation about him the whole time, and no, he actually just has a really small role. But the rest of the time, you go in, if you've got a very well-known person who hasn't had much to do, you can usually start predicting that they're going to be revealed to be the killer or something.
Yeah.
See, for me, I clocked it by. So when the detective's interviewing the people at the massage parlor, and then he gets the people come in, he asks a couple of questions. One person comes in. I won't say now, just in case, but one person comes in. He takes one look at him, and he's like, "No, off you go." And I'm like, I bet it's like sort of said it sort of half-heartedly. And then when it turned out it was, I'm not joking. I just laughed my ass off because I thought when they introduced or when he spoke to the guy, I thought they were just doing a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, they actually went with it. This is brilliant.
Joe, I hope we haven't actually spoiled you. I'm sorry, mate. As ever, be warned, we discuss the film in full and spoil it. But I feel this is one where it doesn't ruin it. It's all about the atmosphere. And this comes at the end. But I'm possibly being a bit blasé about that because I'm afraid I was thinking it was this guy from the first scene. Specifically because of this shot here, I'm not just being a massive pervert. I am only a medium-sized pervert at most. But the film is called Black Belly of the Tarantula, and I knew it was about someone who paralyzes the victims and cuts their stomachs open. And it was the fact that they showed him focusing on her stomach so much, on her navel so much, made me think, oh, it's this guy? I mean,
there you go.
I could have been massively wrong, but I just felt it was, how can I say, I don't want to say it was super obvious, but it was more like I was looking out for it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I wasn't, but even like I say, even when I sort of made my prediction, it was sort of jokingly, like dismissively, like, "Oh, it's going to be this guy, isn't it?" Like, not really believing it. I thought they'd like, I thought there'd be some sort of other twist that I clearly hadn't seen. It was like, "Oh no, I'm right. Jesus, that doesn't happen often."
Well, they were directing you to suspect the wife's husband for a while, and lots of the
Yeah,
leads
I mean,
sort of centered around him. But then
yeah,
they stopped that, and
yeah.
then
I
got
pretty much ruled him
confusing.
out. Yeah, I pretty much ruled him out straight away, just because typically the first suspect isn't the culprit or the killer
Yeah,
or whatnot.
Mr. GB has backed me up. Yes, absolutely. See, you can predict from the casting. I'm not crazy. Can I ask, what did you guys think of this first? Let's just say this character, Maria Zanni's short spell in the film. What did you think of it? Maybe Shrouded, if you want to. So I've been yapping. I'd love to hear from you, mate.
Well, I found it highly enjoyable. No, yeah, I do. I thought she was going to be like a main character in it, and then they just off her really quickly. She seemed like, I don't know, it was the way they were like focusing on her. It seemed like she was going to be the first victim. Yeah. I also didn't get why they kept coming to the conclusion that she was a nymphomaniac. Is that just like she, I didn't get the impression from what the police knew of her that she was a nympho. It was almost like everyone seemed to come to that conclusion, but she seemed to be like just sleeping with someone else. I don't know why they kept calling her a nympho, and I was a bit confused as to why they had that conclusion about her.
It really confused me as well, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I did struggle to follow this, as I said.
Like the husband was calling her a nymphomaniac, wasn't he? When he saw him like arguing, and I thought, well, maybe he knows something about her that we don't. But then the police it was like they saw one photo of her with someone else, and they immediately came to the conclusion that she was a nymphomaniac. I was thinking, like,
what else do you need?
Yeah, I was wondering if it was maybe like some Italian thing. Maybe it was like a mistranslation or just something weird. It was.
No. Come on. This was Italy in the 70s, Shrouded. Everybody knows that if you were Italian, female, and had more than one partner in the 70s, you were automatically classed as a nympho.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just how it works, man. It was just the times, dude. It was just the times.
Yeah, you could probably do a bit of a Madonna whore analysis on this film, if you wanted to. But I know that might not be the lens I look at it through. But yeah, this is she's off pretty quickly and quite nastily.
It's the best death in the movie, I think. Really sets it up. Really lurid and gory.
It's definitely up there.
Do we know if she's alive? Like, I know we know that she's alive throughout the ordeal, but in that moment as well, when I sort of watched it, I didn't realize that I thought she was dead, but with open eyes. Yeah. And then I learned obviously later on, oh my god, they're alive when he's doing what he's doing, and then I just immediately thought back to that first scene because it seemed to be the most visual one for me.
Yeah, yeah, because you don't know at that point that she's not dead when he's like hacking into her. And yeah, I feel like they could have done a bit more with that paralysis thing. Like, maybe he could done something else with them while they were paralyzed, or you could have seen their eyes moving or something like that to indicate that they were alive and aware of everything that was happening to them.
Yeah, they could have emoted more, definitely. Because like it just seemed weird to me that they'd be paralyzed all over, especially towards the end when he's like, "Oh, I need you to be awake for this. That's how I get my pleasure." And it's kind of like, but they're not reacting. So,
I'm very with you on that. I would have liked the movement in the eyes.
Yeah.
I thought the person who sold it best was probably Barbara Bash. Yeah, her character is Jenny. She is. I'll just get her on screen because you know I never connect the character name to anyone.
Oh, same here.
I never learned the character names of any. Like I had to write them down if I wanted to remember them. That's the only reason why I know that Paolo's funny. Oh, that one. She's the one with the glint. Was that where that picture's from?
Yeah, for me, she gets the best kill. Even though you don't see as much, I just think the angles of it are so gorgeous, and you get a really nice shot of her horizontally on the bed, looking kind of like a mannequin, and the knife just draws past her eyes, and then you have the overhead shot.
Mm.
Like, she sold it to me a lot more.
Yeah.
I really liked her, and I really felt for her as well, because like she's very put upon here.
Mm.
Mm.
And there's quite a seed in it. Oh, sorry, Shrouded, go ahead.
I was going to say she's got like an innocent look about her as well, like a bit of a. She's a bit of a baby face, so it's,
Yeah, she does. She really does. I felt really bad for her. Like, and then. By the way, if you read the Wikipedia summary, it's really confusing. It says she goes to her friends and the killer tracks her to the friends, which is not what happens at all.
No.
She goes to the killer's apartment, and the killer is probably her friend, but from like the first scene, we've consistently seen the killer's apartment. So we know immediately that she is in there. So it's a very weird bit of the summary to get wrong.
Yeah, because it's not established that they're actually friends. Wasn't again, because I did lose my concentration with this film at certain points. Was there one of them that wanted to get out of the job? Was it Jenny? I can't remember.
That was her, wasn't it?
It was Jenny, wasn't it? Yeah. I thought
she said like, "Oh, I'm going to go to the police" or something like that, and then is that scene when she's like, "Right, watch your back."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There is there's a weird substrain in this film that I was quite interested in. I was trying to look if we knew more about Paolo Cavera's life, because he's put a lot of seediness into this, but he's also put kind of he's got quite a bit of gayness going on in here that they don't do much with, but there's I'm not doing one of my readings. I'm just
I was going to say
there's this character here. I think it's very strongly implied that she's quite sapphic. And then there's where's he? Because he was a treat. I really like this character.
The guy at the pool.
The guy I'm gonna.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite.
He's just going around there sassing everyone.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I actually laughed out loud at certain points. When he's like, he goes to give the woman the cigarettes, and you can tell he's just teasing her, and he just drops the cigarettes in the pool.
That's
Chat, if you haven't seen the movie and this sounds really weird, it's because it's really weird. This film has a lot of quirky, unusual touches.
Yeah.
And this guy who's like a chief waiter at the spa is one of those weird touches. He goes around looking like the guy from Trailer Park Boys or Office Space.
Oh, yes.
and he just he just casually sasses and teases the guests. It's so weird.
Yeah. Something about this film, though, is they had a lot of weird characters like that, where I felt like they didn't do enough with them. I really liked that that detective. It was called like Catapult. He was really weird as well, and I just felt like they just didn't use him enough. Oh, this was a good scene with the mustache.
Yeah.
Shrouded, did you know that a hairy woman is a happy woman? That's because she hasn't had the waxing yet. Waxing will ruin your day.
He just seemed to be really rude to all the guests as well, like walking around. There was a bit where there was a woman in like the steam tank thing, and he was just like holding a drink in front of her mouth, but not just like he was teasing her with it, just to be mean.
It's this weird, quirky energy the film has that I just kind of loved. So he won me over.
Yeah, there should have been more of him, I reckon. There was just a few characters like that where I felt like they were too colourful to just be like in the background in a few scenes. They could have been like, they could have made, oh, there's Catapult as well. Yeah, I loved him. I thought he was.
I knew you'd say this guy. I love this guy as well. I originally said he was in only one scene, and then on my rewatch, I found out he does turn up again, but doesn't do much.
Yeah, that's
Shrouded. Tell people of the joy of Catapult.
Well, he's just this really. I don't know what it is. He's somehow just exudes dust all over his office. Like everything in his office is just covered in a film of dust, and he's just this really like slovenly, sleazy. Is he like a private detective or something? They didn't even really introduce him. He's just like, like that's the husband, isn't it? The first guy.
Yeah, that's Sunny. That's a guy that I think he's our red herring. Most of the film.
So he's gone to this detective guy, the Catapult, to try and track down some other guy who I'd kind of lost track of the plot by this point. He was trying to track down someone else. Was it the guy who was in the photograph with his murdered wife?
Yeah, our first lead is that there's a photo of Maria Zani, who was the first victim, with her lover. It gets torn in half. And he has the other half of it.
He has the other half, and this detective is like, "Yeah, I can track him down. You know, you just got to put me into motion. Like that's why they call me the Catapult, or something like that." He's like, if you want me, just he hasn't got a telephone in his room in his office. Like, if you want me, just
he's got like 8 telephones, so it's such a weird line.
Oh, he has, yeah. I didn't even notice. That he had telephones in the office. I just took it when that line where he's like, "How am I going to get hold of you? You haven't got a telephone." And he's like, "Just call a bar." And he gives him the number for a bar. He's like, "Just ring this bar and I'll be there." But then he's like, he's walking around his office and he's like patting like a stack of papers, and it's just dust coming up, and you can just see all this like filth over everything. And then I was really looking forward to Catapult going around seeing his like slovenly detective work trying to find this guy in the photograph, but you just see none of it. This is what I mean. Some of these characters are really underutilized. I would have really loved to see Catapult in action, but you see him later on in the car, don't you, when he's tracked down this guy in the photo. But
that guy dies, and then it's like, oh, okay, all right.
But like, how did he track down this guy? It's never shown. It's just like he meets Catapult, and then the next minute they found him, and it's like, where's the in between? I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, he really reminds me of all of these. Joe, I guess you could say Catapult was a big draw, huh? Okay, fine, we're done. He really reminds me of the old Hitchcock films. Like Hitchcock will always put in like a weird character who just like gets a lot more time than they should really have, but they're a quirky individual they add nothing to the plot, but they are there for a bit of flavor. So the examples would be like, don't get too mad at me, folks, the car salesman in Psycho, or the woman buying bug spray, also in Psycho. If you're like, wait, who the hell are those people? They had nothing to do with the plot, really. But they got to add loads of character. And there's a similar thing in Strangers on a Train. I've run out of examples for that. I can't be specific. I'll go with The Lady Vanishes. There's a comedy duo who are an actual comedy duo at the time, whose names I've forgotten at the moment, but they also appear in Dead of Night from 1945. And they're just in the train as well, adding lots of character, but not really being necessary. And Catapult reminds me of that, just a huge amount of character being added into the film, just kind of for the joy of it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Joe, like family-friendly stream. Family-friendly.
There was a weird character at the beginning of the film where the woman who walks in and she's like, "Oh, don't photograph me," and she's all done up. You can tell she's just come here to be photographed. And
yes.
she's
Yeah.
really like this weird superficial character, but she was kind of funny. But you just see her for like a scene, and then that's it. You never see her again. She doesn't really have any role in the film apart from being questioned at the beginning.
I think I messaged you about her to ECG. Like I was right. I just messaged him about it. Like, I thought it was Zani's mistress had just turned up to the crime scene, but it's on that level of weirdness.
Yeah, I think you did, didn't you? Yeah. See if I can go back and find it.
TCG, did you enjoy Catapult?
Yeah, that scene where, like Shrouded said, where he's like, "Oh yeah, just phone the bar." It reminds me of my dad. I'm not joking. Nah, I love my dad, but it's just one of those like sort of memories I had as a kid when we used to go down to the old like the Royal British Legion back in the day, and like he wouldn't he didn't like. He was always awful with his phone, bless him. I don't know why I'm saying was. He's still alive, but he's awful with his phone. But you know, if he wanted to get an extra beer in, he'd put that to one side. But then and then my stepmother would phone up the bar and demand to speak to him. Oh god,
you're gonna have to call him Catapult next time you see him.
Oh my god, he's got. Do you know what? He's got the. He's the same sort of stature, I have to say. But I feel like my old man's a bit bigger than him. Think Phil Mitchell.
Oh yeah.
I'm mentioning him for the second time in the space of 4 days. Phil Mitchell. Phil Mitchell meets Alex Jones in terms of the physique.
Oh, I'm building up such a picture now. Yeah. So we're talking about how it can be a bit difficult to follow this film, because it is coming clearer. Like we're mostly suspecting this guy there who's hiring Catapult, Paolo Zani. Our main lead is a photo, but there is no connection to the second murderer. So that is genuinely confusing. Sorry, the second murder victim. That is just genuinely confusing. And they do this like 1970s CSI routine with the photo, which I really love. Like they literally do enhance with it. I appreciated that. If you're wondering what the heck they're enhancing, chat, it's this little smudge on the right. They work out that this little blur thing is a plane. And from the plane, they want to work out the angle that the photo was taken at. This doesn't actually help all that much, but it is interesting.
We keep talking about angles. I'm going to have to say it. We've gone very much down the angle of the dangle route. I'm sorry. I had to say it.
The old angle of
the double feature horror show.
I did wonder, okay, like we've got so much blood at the start, and then it goes quite tame, but the nudity is very consistent. Like this film was very happy to throw a heck of a lot of nudity all over the screen.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is that censorship at the time? Because everything I've seen is that Italian censorship has always been quite lax / non-existent.
I don't know. I mean, I felt like it was more of an artistic choice as opposed to any sort of like concerns over censorship. That was just my take.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know.
Sorry, but just to sort of add to that, I think it was more of a stylistic choice. Because again, this actually sort of ties into our conversation on Monday, but what this film does, it gives you space to use your imagination when it comes to the manner of the killings, where the gore lacks. Your imagination can run free. I mean, you can't help but sort of think how traumatically horrifying being sort of pinched in the neck and paralyzed from the neck down, and having somebody, do unspeakable, like, torturous things to you while you're alive. And sure, you won't feel it, but you're aware of it. You're seeing it happening. It's something where I don't think they needed to emphasize on the gore, because the imagery the imagery of it alone is there.
Oh, I'd say so. Yeah, I could go with that. It's also it's an interesting way of killing. I mean, not just like it's unique, it's evocative. You're paralyzed with a pin through your neck, and then your tummy's cut open. But it's quite a sexual kill.
Well, yeah, I mean, women are completely helpless at that point, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say I'm tinfoiling, I will accept a tinfoil. Okay, but they're usually pushed down onto a bed, and then penetrated in the neck, Susan, in the neck, and then it's their belly is cut open. So you've got a penetration, then an attack on basically the womb. Oh no. I might. Yeah. Oh, and it's explicitly linked to the wasp that attacks a tarantula and fills it with its larvae, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And given that this is ultimately, spoilers, folks, revenge for your wife being an nymphomaniac, I don't know, man. It feels like there's some kind of sexual energy to these killings and sexual symbolism to the killings.
Yeah, I thought the belly stabbing was just purely so we could get some shots of the women with their tops off, lying there with their knockers out, and then a few stabs in the belly. I thought it was just a setup for that.
Shrouded. You don't say the quiet part out loud.
Well,
of course, it was stylistic choice. It's art. Plus, you get it.
I mean, you didn't need it, because there was plenty of times where the women were walking around naked just for the sake of it, really. So you wouldn't have needed that to get the nudity in. But
Shrouded just turning to Mrs. Shrouded, saying, "It's okay. It's an Italian art film from the 70s."
Yeah, I did message you while I was watching this, didn't I? Saying I know my wife was out at a concert, and I just said I know she's going to walk in at the worst bit. Because as you come to the front door outside our house, you can look through the window and see what's on the TV. And I just thought she's going to look in and think I'm watching porn while she's gone out. And she came in at the worst bit, but it was okay, because there was a woman being stabbed, so she knew it was a horror film. So.
What do we think of this from Joe? Silence of the Lambs may have been influenced moth themes and mannequins.
Maybe.
It's been years since I watched that film.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking sort of like the influence sort of works. I mean, both ways. I was thinking as well when I was watching this. The obviously I was thinking of Ivan Milat, but purely because of the research stuff and just the paralyzing effect. But I was also thinking of like the Ripper, Jack the Ripper, as well, because the whole disemboweling side of things, the sort of attire that the killer was wearing throughout, and like you said, he was in the sort of shadows, and you didn't see his face for large parts of the film. It did sort of have sort of Jack the Ripper vibes, and he was going for women that he perceived to be, quite sexual, if you will.
You might be interested to know that there are a couple of giallos that are like direct Ripper stories.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they quite like the idea of that. We've meant. Yeah, Maverick. We always have to play this game. It can get very confusing, but remember, as Richard says, it's art. It's okay, honey. It's Italian. That'll always get you out of trouble. It's classy. We did mention the scene with the This was one of the weirder ones, you know. It feels like it was dropped in, and then it has very little connection to the rest of the film. And this was part of the thing that made it so difficult to follow. And I'm so glad that you both said you had trouble following it. The scene where we get the explanation for the title.
Yeah.
If either of you feel brave to try and explain what this scene was and how we got there? Because that is quite a challenge.
When it got to this, I was confused as to why we were suddenly at this place and speaking to this guy at this point.
Was I'm basically asking you this because I was so confused and I had to wind it back and it didn't help. I really, the film is very confusing, and it's maybe just for my own ego that I'd like to hear you both say. I have no idea how he got there.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I'm happy to oblige. I didn't have a bloody clue.
Was he like supposed to be helping investigate the case with him or something like that? And he was. I don't even know what was he supposed to be, like a forensic scientist or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, yes. Some calls the tarantula an insect. Great job, mate. I don't know. Was he trying to profile the killer?
Okay, so it's literally I'm only getting this from Wikipedia because I could not get this from the film. So the second murder victim has no connection to Maria Zani. So Zani is our main point of interest, okay? So we suspect the husband from the start. And then this woman with no connection to her is murdered. That's a woman who's killed among the mannequins. So our detective, Tellini, visits a scientist acquaintance of the woman who demonstrates that a species of wasp will use a toxin to paralyze and eviscerate a tarantula to lay its eggs in the corpse. It's a weird one, but then the scientist seems to try and kill Tellini.
Yeah.
Because he has a whole load of drugs on the premises. And so to be honest, that seemed to me like just a way that they could write the character out very quickly and make him not a suspect. It was a confusing one.
Yeah. I think it was just they had this cool stock footage of tarantulas and they wanted to work it in somehow.
Oh, the Ed Wood excuse.
yeah, the Ed Wood excuse. Yeah, but it was
explosions
cool.
Going off and it's scaring all the buffalo.
It worked. It was cool seeing that, like all that tarantula stuff with the wasp. It was, and it worked with the context of the women getting the needle in the back of their neck. It did provide some really nice visuals for the movie, but it was just a bit random, really. It felt like the character was forced in for one scene, really.
Well, it's like the acupuncturist is also brought. So there's two characters. There's the insect guy and the acupuncturist, both with limited connection. I'm also unsure why if you were interviewing someone, why you would use their services.
Yeah, I felt like maybe he was just doing that just to see what he did, like, or to see what kind of needles he had. Rather than going in and going, right, we suspect, we're investigating someone and we think they're using acupuncture needles. Maybe he was just sort of going in there and seeing what he did and what equipment he was using or something like that.
It's one of those, I mean, it's not long after that it's revealed it's a bit of a red herring, the whole Zani angle, which we'll get to. But
yeah, this is a bit of the film where I was getting confused as to why they were anywhere.
Yeah, I was very confused over how they found people and how they got there, like and whether his girlfriend had been killed already.
Yeah. After this scene, this is what I mean about not knowing. The husband was a suspect, but I didn't get any bit where it was established that he was like on the run from them, and then there was a bit where he turns up in the back of the car with a gun, and they're like, and he's like, "Hand yourself in," but a minute ago they were just interviewing him, so I don't know whether I just missed a bit where it was established that he was somehow on the run from the police.
Mm.
It was just a bit weird, that bit.
How can I say? There's a lot of. That's right, Gatsby.
Yeah. If you,
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to say it, Gatsby will say it for you.
Sue, bless you. Well, Shrouded is helping us analyze a 1971 Italian horror movie called The Black Belly of the Tarantula. We're doing it as part of an arc looking at this stuff. It's an interesting genre that basically was a massive influence on all the slasher movies of the 80s. So Halloween especially really takes from these movies, these Italian horror movies. And so we're looking at it in depth. But at the same time, it's extremely confusing. It's a very confusing film. And we're all watching it wondering like, huh? What was happening? So we had some of the confusion that you have right now. Unless you just started from the start of the stream and you're looking at slow motion chicken footage, in which case I can't help. Yeah, I think there is a certain level in which like the editing is not there in these movies, and they can all be very confusing and difficult to follow. Like they feel like you can tell from just when they're released that they are produced extremely quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that Lucio Fulci was putting out 3 films in 1981, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the scripts got mixed up with each other.
Yeah, that's possible. That sort of feeling that like they've written a load of they've written a really long script and then they've just cut bits out of it to make it shorter, and we haven't got enough money to film this scene, so let's just cut it out and people will get what's going on.
I mean, that does happen. That kind of still happens, right? I mean, you guys both know about ADR, right?
No.
ADR.
Okay, sorry. ADR is additional dialogue recording. And so sometimes your stars, they film everything, they come back into the studio and they just record the audio because, you know, maybe there was some wind or it just wasn't clear enough. So you need a pure audio track to put over the film. But sometimes they realize that as they were adapting, they forgot to explain something. And so they will just have the character say something that explains the thing that they forgot to film.
Yes. Yes.
And you can catch it a lot. I might ruin some films for you guys because you are going to start noticing this. I think, Sue, you're going to know exactly what I mean. If you see a character dropping a load of exposition when they're facing away from someone, you just got the back of the head and they're explaining something, and it sounds just a little bit different. It's ADR.
Sweet. Aaron does ADR.
Also, sorry, Sue, you're amazing. You're in the right. When you say Svengoolie, do you mean like the old Svengoolie, the old horror host? Because that's amazing. If you, sorry, I'm geeking out because someone mentioned a horror host. I'm going to stop. We'll get back on track. But Sue, you're cool. I like Paul Bearer. I think he's pretty cool. Right. So, sorry. There's a shot just before we go completely off the Zani thread that I thought was really interesting. It's when our inspector comes back in and he's really just sort of, he's where we are basically. He's really lost and he's not sure he can make sense of it.
Yes. Does he go back? He goes back home, doesn't he?
He goes back home. His girlfriend comforts him. I don't know if she's managed to get the new bed in, seeing as that was a big point of drama. You know, we had to had to cover that. But this is quite interesting. The fact that they were just filming. Now, does this remind you of anything else?
What was that South Korean zombie film we watched?
Oh, hashtag alive.
Hashtag alive, yeah.
That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just getting vibes of nothing to do with this film.
oh,
Just the
okay.
high-rising tower blocks, but just yeah.
I thought maybe Peeping Tom.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm just thinking this is. It's easy to say, oh, this film came after this film, so therefore they must have seen the first film. But I do wonder. Like, so much of the Italian giallo stuff is amazing at bringing in that voyeurism, and like they're so good at that, of like putting you in the point of view of the killer.
Yeah,
and like this film does it a lot, but then now just explicitly showing you a camera of it is really interesting.
Yeah, this was creepy.
Yeah, I mean they do a number on the detective. They put him through the ringer, because I haven't got a clip of this, but later when he's just like failing to solve the case, they show the footage from this camera of
That's
him
right.
Yeah.
sorting his wife out.
Yeah.
They're just like laughing at him.
Yeah. It's so brutal. Like, in fairness, you'd have thought they'd have looked at it first and said, sorry, you don't have to detective, it's you Stuppinger. You know?
Yeah, they're just sitting. And it's not even like they could have said, "Oh, this might contain some sort of clue. We might be able to like pick up some sounds from the background or look for something that might lead us to the killer." They're just sort of like laughing at him, like, "Oh, good one. You're shagging your girlfriend." And,
Go on, my son. Go on.
Because they did that. I mean, they keep playing it because I think he sits there and sticks it out, doesn't he?
I think for a little bit, yeah. He's
on the base.
Yeah.
I wonder if they all clapped.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
One of them pats him on the shoulders, and he's like, "Yeah, good one." So yeah, that felt very Italian somehow. That scene was.
He's just on the beat. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But anyway, that it gets confusing because that happens. I think just after we've had Zani, our main detective, fall to his death. You like this bit, TCG?
Yeah, I loved it. I sort of said to myself when they did this, like, you don't normally have a scene where someone falls to their death and you see them impact on the ground. Now, obviously, this is a mannequin. Also, another little bit of trivia: when the mannequin falls off of the building, he actually smashes into the building, like to the building alongside it, and like breaks one of the windows as it's going down. Completely unintentional, but they thought, yeah, we'll keep that.
Well, looks good.
But yeah, I really appreciate this. I mean, obviously it was a mannequin, but I like the fact that you got to see someone fall to their doom, and you actually saw the impact. I thought, I quite like that.
I'd probably say it's a good choice. Like, obviously it's a mannequin, but I don't think it looks too bad. And if you think at the time, how else would they do it?
Also, the whole, I mean, if someone's going to fall anyway, they're going to pretty much ragdoll like the mannequin as well. So it's not like, poor green screen or, whatever the technology would have been at the time to sort of like give the impression that he fell.
Well, think back to Psycho. Think back to Psycho. There was, it wasn't a direct fall, but do you remember a character fell backwards downstairs?
Yes, that's the kind of fall that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so they were doing rear projection for that, and they would have done basically a poor man's green screen, let's say.
Vertigo has got something like that, hasn't it?
Yeah, Vertigo has got it as well, and it's just, I mean, I think that would have aged a lot worse than the mannequin, so I'm quite happy they did that.
Definitely, yeah. Good. It was a good choice from the directors, I have to say.
Yeah,
a nice shot as well. This little weird square that they found with the windows. It's, you know, they could have just had him falling off the side of a building onto the street, but this is a, you know, just visually, it's another example of sort of like the stylishness in this film, I think.
Ooh, what do you think of that?
Suspense, yeah, that's interesting.
I quite like it. I mean, it puts all your focus on it, and that is the focus on the case. The fact that you spend so much time looking down on it is basically a kind of, you're meant to consider that, because Zani was basically your main suspect. I did think, in terms of suggesting a spider's web, you see both a hanging light decoration in the masseuse area that looked very much like a web, and then the lampshade in the killer's flat also looks like a web. So they're definitely feeding in spider's web imagery, absolutely. But I would say, in addition, you might think it's kind of a bit impressionist almost, in terms of how strongly it angles you. That idea of that angle that makes you feel a bit queasy, it's a bit uncanny.
Yeah. Because it's right on the edge as well. Imagine, you know, being on the edge of the top there, looking down. You're gonna get lightheaded. I know I would. So yeah, it's quite an unsettling angle.
Yeah, but it's I would say this is when I got most confused, because Zani had just died. He was chasing a man, and that man is later caught and also run over. And the man was, it turns out, Zani's wife's lover, who is the guy we were trying to find via the photos.
So that's who he was. Okay.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you here, TCG. I was watching it thinking, who is that? What? I was very confused.
I just loved how the detective didn't give a stuff that guy was dead.
Well,
just didn't.
You know, he'd have to get cleaning to open the door. You know, it's going to be a faff to get him. They'll sort it out on Monday.
Yeah, I mean that's very much how it felt. I mean, he sort of goes over, sort of like puts his hand on his shoulder, or doesn't even check for a pulse. Then he is like a letter that he's got, or an envelope that he pulls out, and then he just sort of looks away, gets up and walks off. And I'm like, okay, so there's no mobile phones. Like, surely they would have had radios in the 70s. You know, just maybe a little bit of care. Yeah. But he's like, nah, got what I want. Off I go. Next scene.
I think because he's lost, he's confused, and that's what I did like it about him. Inspector Tellini is saying to his boss, he's saying to his wife that he doesn't think he can handle it and he's messed it up. And I really like that, because I was also confused.
Yeah.
But then he has a mishap. Now, John Gorris, you already mentioned it, and you were wondering, is this scene, this attempted killing of him, was this picked up on? Was this referenced by The Descent, Final Destination 2? What was the other one you asked
Exorcist,
about, John?
One of the Exorcist movies.
Oh, is there an Exorcist that does this?
It's one of the Exorcist films where something like a sheet of glass comes off the back of a...
Oh, The Omen.
The Omen, that's the one, yeah.
One of my favourites of all time.
The Omen, that's what I'm thinking.
Scream 2, anyone?
Scream 2, absolutely, my dude. Absolutely.
Obligatory Scream reference, get in.
Oh, we gotta get... Do you remember... Maybe we should bring back obligatory Scream reference.
I think we should.
Yeah. This is an interesting one, because it kind of gets him back in the game after he's basically considered quitting. I mean, I was still really confused, but he kind of gets a lead after this, which finally points him in the direction of where we were apparently meant to look. And I think the clue is that these envelopes he's found are part of a blackmail deal.
That's right.
Yeah. I did not get this while I was watching, I'll be honest with
No,
you.
I didn't. No, as you're saying things, they're just sort of like clicking in my head. But yeah, oh man, it's
It
like
comes together when
I
someone
know
explains it, but
that's
it's
it. Yeah.
hard to piece together from the film. Oh, I also didn't mention, after this death attempt, he tries to see who basically reversed the truck into him, but he walks up in the most casual way. He just saunters up, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's just literally in my notes for this screen cap is casual walk after.
Man, this guy was as casual as hell anyway. I mean, a lot. It's kind of the thing with these giallo movies. People's reactions are so odd in these films. Like with the killer as well. Like when he's like chasing down these victims. Like I say, chasing. There isn't really much of a chase. They just stand and scream and just pretty much take what's coming to them. It's just so odd.
I think it might be partly the age of it, that just there is they don't go as gritty in terms of like the fighting and getting messy, so you do see like the victims sort of give up a bit in a way.
Yeah, they just complete capitulation. Like then there's no apart from really the first sort of scene, or the first, that was probably the biggest struggle. Everything else just seems to be pretty much, oh man, the killer's here. I'll give a scream. I might try and gently nudge him off or something like that. But I mean, I suppose it kind of works as well in a way, because you've got like a domineering male over these, like, because they're quite petite women. You're not expecting it to be like a 50-50 battle. It's not Chuck Norris versus Bruce Lee.
No, but it's nice to have a bit of a fight. I mean, you could probably almost chart like the decades and for how much fight back people get to do.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I really want to return to the 1940s and 50s where someone just screams at the camera and does nothing. We have seen a few of those, I'm afraid, and it's sort of it's a tough sell. I like them to fight back.
Yeah, I've always found these kinds of reactions in films quite perplexing.
Yeah,
and you're right. It's not just a giallo thing. It's just I think it's just like you say, it's a sign of the times, isn't it? It's just what the in things seem to be in terms of getting a character killed off screen, getting a character killed off on screen, I should say.
Yeah. So we are finally brought into the health spa, which is apparently the center of the blackmail ring. We have this slightly sapphic inclination here, which is just interesting to see. It's just a little bit interesting. I couldn't get Cavera's intention from this, but I think it's definitely in there, because it seems to me like it feels quite sleazy and condemnatory of the lesbianism here. But then I feel he's really sympathetic to the guy we really like, the waiter, So I can't work it out, but there's something going on with that there.
Did anyone think the waiter was being angled as a suspect?
I thought slightly, yeah. I thought it was quite an interesting twist, because you sort of saw a bit of an evil streak within him when he was, like I say, when he dropped the cigarettes. I thought that would be interesting if he was the killer.
Yeah.
Or it would make an interesting film, that sort of character going around being all sort of comedic and just a bit sort of prankish and a bit mean to people, but in a funny way, and then at night time going out and murdering people in horrible ways. I did think that.
I didn't suspect him just because I thought the silhouette of the killer that we seen made it clear it wasn't him, and I thought that would be quite a cheat.
Come
really?
on, Horrorshow. Yeah, really? Come on. Yeah, come on. We've seen enough Scream films to know that a small petite woman isn't a 6 foot man killing Dewey. Come on.
I was going to say I might actually make a quick. We've talked about how to fix that scene, and I think I might have to release a short video because I've rewatched that 4 times now. Because I'm balanced, and
all they had to do was swap the killers. That's all they had to do.
That scene bothers me every time now. I will point out, John Goris, yes. Dial M for Murder has an amazing one. Grace Kelly, and she gets to fight back so much more than you expect, and the scene is a lot more brutal than you expect. Folks, if you haven't done so, Dial M for Murder is an amazing film. If you ever think like, I mean, I know I've shown TCG so many films from before this, so he won't even be intimidated. But if you just think, something from the 50s, I don't know, man. Trust me, Dial M for Murder is amazing. You will really love that film.
Maybe I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, you would love it. It's fantastic plotting. It's just one of those films with really intelligent characters, and you get to keep up with them. Yeah, I absolutely adored it. I really enjoyed Dial M for Murder. There was a debate over what. Actually, I won't comment because I don't remember clearly enough. And I want to read more about it, but I'll just recommend it wholeheartedly. I really enjoyed it. Right, so we've got to this guy who we thought was quite sympathetic. It would be quite the cheat if they made him the killer, but then it came to this guy. And I think we were all, we have all said basically that we were, also, hey, yes, good to see you. Good to see you. Don't know if this one would be for you, but I think we're enjoying it's one for a good discussion, you know. I think we'd all said that we've thoroughly suspected this guy from the start.
Oh my god.
I mean, he's also got some very creepy physiognomy. What can I say?
So I don't know here if his eyes are meant to look fake or whether it's just like it was a cheap effect, or whether you're meant to pick up on they're fake eye, fake contacts.
You can't tell, can you? Is it a bad effect or a deliberately bad effect?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. A few films have done that. Psych, it was a fake out. It was an effect. I'm like, oh, I suspended my disbelief for you.
Oh man, I can't get over how silly this scene was, like in a good way, just in a, and then when it's revealed he's actually the girl, I was like, oh no, you actually did it. Oh, bravo. Oh, you got done.
I was expecting some kind of Daredevil stuff, like Shrouded. Were you thinking, okay, he's still killing, but they've underestimated him. They're ableist. What were you thinking?
At the beginning, where the first kill, when she goes outside, she takes the dog out and ties it up, and she comes back in, and then she's gone upstairs, and suddenly the lights go out. Because I thought from the beginning it's him. I thought, he's blind, and it's a bit like I can't remember what that movie's called. Where
Don't Breathe.
Is there another film where the victim's blind and she turns out all the lights to get one over on the killers? I can't remember.
It happened in Game of Thrones briefly, but my brain is aching because I know the one you mean.
I'm one of these people who I can think of things like in my head, but I can't like get the when the words on the tip of your tongue. Anyway,
turn it over to chat.
Yeah.
Can you think of the film?
There's an old movie where it's like she's in the house and it's the actress is really famous. I just can't think of her name. Anyway, when the lights went out, I thought, it's going to be this blind killer and he's going to switch the lights out. But because he's blind, it doesn't affect him. But the victims, they're in the dark and he can kill them more easily because they're sort of out of their comfort zone.
Is that Don't Breathe? That sounds like Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe? Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't a blind woman though.
Oh, that's a good point. Actually, it was a blind man.
Yeah.
Wait until dark. Is that it? Maybe.
Until dark. I'm gonna
have a little look. It's so awful when you try and think of it. The German for it is "Es liegt mir auf die Zunge." It's lying on my tongue.
That is the film Wait Until Dark with Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
For some reason I couldn't think of
Ooh.
Audrey Hepburn's name. It's quite a good movie, as from what I remember. It's been ages, but I seem to remember it. Yeah, Don't Breathe. I think that's the plot of it, isn't it? That she's blind and she gets one over on someone by turning off the lights. So it's something along those lines.
Yeah, because Don't Breathe. The plot of Don't Breathe is that the people that are being killed off are actually they're actually broken into a blind man's home.
Mm.
And
that's another one.
Do you know, man, they had to take such a curveball with that film because they had to give you a reason to hate the dude. Because I'm sorry, but up until the point where he was like, "Oh yes, this is my personal grape dungeon," I'm like, this guy's doing nothing wrong. In fact, you're getting done over by knockoff Daredevil geezer. I mean, I like this dude. Oh no, I'm not allowed to like him. Oh crap.
I'm kind of with you on that. I didn't really. I just think it made it too easy for the audience. Like how can I say it? It felt like you lack confidence in your audience because we've given you bad characters, and then we're going to make one of them the really bad one so that you can side with the other two. And then also we're going to find out that actually they've got reasons, very good reasons for robbing people. And then the guy they're robbing, actually he's a bad man. I'm like, I would enjoy the moral complexity a bit more.
Yeah. Now, when you mentioned the rape dungeon, it all came flooding back. Yeah, I think I was somehow getting Wait Until Dark and Don't Breathe sort of mixed up in my head, even though they're from completely different eras. They've got slightly similar plots. So, yeah, good movie though.
Yeah,
not one yet though.
Yeah, any of you guys gone for the sequel? I can't say I have. I
didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, they focused it on the guy, but I can't. I just saw from the trailer that they were kind of doing the thing of like he's evil, but there's really, really evil people. I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't as interested. I'd rather the film did the very difficult thing of just sticking us with an evil character and not try and make them a bit, lighter.
Ambiguous. Give them some sort of ambiguity, yeah.
Like I like a more uncomfortable experience, like a Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like I'm very happy with that sort of difficult watch. But yeah, we are not ableist here on this channel. I fully believe that this guy could kill people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Shrouded and yourself when I think it would have been interesting had he been capable of doing what he was doing as a result of the other senses being heightened. Because there are still people out there who are like completely blind, but they can do things like like how bats use sonar and they sort of like click to essentially build a picture in their minds of the rooms. There are people out there that can do that who are blind. It would have been interesting to see. I mean, obviously him clicking probably would have been a bit of a giveaway in terms of where he would be in any given sort of room, but just the sheer fact of him having heightened senses to be able to sort of like, because one of the things I found with this film as well is the soundtrack to it. That a lot of it has like really, really loud, heavy breathing.
Oh yeah,
and
it got on my nerves, to be honest.
Oh, big time. But it absolutely got on. Yeah,
that's Ennio Morricone. How are you
But I
going to
would have.
diss Ennio Morricone?
But I tell you what, I would have appreciated if they didn't go with the contact lenses route, and if they instead went with heightened senses. Him hearing the breathing as loud as it was, as a viewer listening to that soundtrack, it kind of, I felt like if they put us, the viewer, in his shoes, and we were able to sort of hear the things he was hearing while he was doing the kills, and like how everything would be amplified as a result of that, and that would then create sort of like the room in his mind so that he could navigate around, almost like how a bat uses sonar.
Yeah.
Not necessarily clicking, but like using like someone's breathing to sort of like feel the vibrations and the bouncing off the walls and all that stuff. I would have much preferred that too. But although honestly, I was cackling when he picked up that contact lens.
It's a good reveal,
like,
but
they are actually going with it.
It is. I'm with you on that, just because I'm absolutely cool with him being the killer. I'm just like, it's part of that thing of it makes the psychiatrist's explanation of what has gone on even more ridiculous. Like he went killing because his wife cucked him and was an nymphomaniac. So the first thing he did was pretend to be blind and start a career as a blind masseuse. I'm like, what? I mean, I already watted the first time, but now his first step is to be a blind what? So yeah, I'm definitely with you more that it would have been better if he was actually blind. It's quite a curveball, but I did feel proud when he finds a contact lens. And it's like, oh, fair play, yay!
And
I feel so vindicated.
I tell you what I do like as well. The first time you see the killer, when you find that he's the killer, there's a really interesting shot where one of his eyes is actually darkened out by a shadow, so you're only seeing one eye, and it happens to be the eye that's that the contact lens has fallen out of.
Well, it leads very quickly to the final reveal, and I really like this stuff. This guy is so menacing. I really liked his performance. We're going to cover it soon. I'll try and stay spoiler free. I'm sure you've all seen it, but the chap in Saw, you will know exactly who I mean. He really reminds me of a character from that. Just menacing, not overplayed, actually very subdued, very unnerving. This gaunt presence. I really like him.
Yeah, he's got a kind of waxy look to his face, and goes with his weird gloved hands. Just makes him look a bit sort of. He's got a bit of a ventriloquist dummy type of look to him, almost. A bit like he's not real, or a bit undead.
Yeah, there's something like that about how he turns the women into basically objects, into mannequins, really. I think that idea of he's meant to look like a mannequin is part of that, but I'm trying to piece together what they were trying to do with it. There may not be a deeper meaning to it. It could just be to be unnerving. But I thought he did a really good job.
It could be one of them things, like I say, that they had grand plans for all this subplot that might have just got cut out. So you end up with this weird character who looks kind of like a mannequin, and maybe it was going to go a bit deeper into that sort of side of things.
Yeah. Fez, yes, you got it. You got it in one. Thank you. I was trying not to spoil, but yes. Yeah, I mean, TCG, you mentioned something quite early on about the lack of choreography. And when you said that, I really thought of this final fight between him and the detective.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when I was saying it. That's the one that really sort of stands out. It's just, I mean, I thought to myself because he before he's able to wash to her, the detective comes through and he's got he's holding the gun to him, and he's completely in control of the situation now. But obviously, because it's his girlfriend that's in the position that she's in, he loses control. Man, I'm just thinking, like, if it was me and I was in that position, of course I'm going to want to batter the living shite out of the dude. But fire off a couple of rounds into his kneecaps first.
Yeah.
And then scream, and then go for it.
That scream was unintentionally funny.
I know. He sort of flails his arms up as well.
I know it was meant to show that he's like he snapped sort of thing. It was like the last straw, but it was I don't know whether it was the voiceover or something, but there was something funny about that reaction.
Oh, no, I agree, man. I pissed myself. But yeah, I just thought if it was me, I would have gone pop kneecaps, then do exactly what he did, and then it wouldn't be so much of a struggle for the dude. But yeah, like Mergu just says it in the chat, this is what I was sort of alluding to. It actually looked more genuine because it was less because there was clearly no choreography involved, or very, very little.
Well, I really liked it for how messy it was, but also just that Tellini, our protagonist, he's basically been unsure. He's been uncertain of himself. He's thinking like he can't handle it the whole film. Like he basically tried to quit before he was nearly killed in the truck backing up on him. And it's like the decision that he's not going to be a cop, he's actually going to really take it into his own hand, and he's just going to batter the guy to pieces and smash his head against a wall.
Yeah.
That's like the character arc completing. It's like he really is suddenly competent again.
Well, there is another take.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Because obviously he throughout the film, he was sort of always one step behind of the killer. And part of his in the film was whether he felt like he was capable of doing the job. And so seeing his girlfriend in the position that she was in, perhaps to him was like the final failure, and then he loses control.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I think, can't we meld them? Like,
you could.
It's in seeing that failure that he knows what to do. That suddenly he's unparalyzed, if you will. But
no, that's a really good way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about just the way he finishes the guy off, like choking him and then bashing his head against a wall. It's savage stuff,
Yeah. No, I like that.
And afterwards, he does sort of go away with like you do feel like he's. I wouldn't say he's exactly filled with confidence. Like he does seem to just wander the streets, still considering everything, but in that moment, he knows what to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really. I wouldn't say it was the right thing to do though, because he drops his gun and he puts himself at risk, like fighting him hand to hand of either getting injured or just letting the guy escape. It's almost like he's lost control and he's doing the completely wrong thing. Like he's got a gun on him.
Oh,
surely the right thing to do would be like, right, turn around, tie his hands up, call some backup.
It's definitely bad tactics because he drops his weapon, but horny Jimmy Nail here doesn't drop his.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you're seeing it here. He's got his crocodile shoes on. Apologies to everyone who isn't sort of in their 30s in the UK. that might be very confusing. Haven't thought of Jimmy Nail's musical career in quite a long time. We have that. I'd like Shrouded. Any more thoughts on our sort of physical finale?
Oh no, I think that covered it. I wanted to talk about that fight scene, but that was just that I enjoyed it. That was pretty much it. That was one of the highlights of the film. That fight. It reminded me a bit of I know this is much more choreographed, but there was a good fight scene in They Live where they just fight in an alleyway for ages. I think it reminded me of that, just like a really nice brawl.
Yes,
I liked it, but yeah, I haven't got really anything else to add to that. I did enjoy this scene. It was a nice finale.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite brawls. Do you know Ong Bak?
But I haven't seen.
It's a Thai film with Tony Jaa, and it's just great brawling, really good stuff. Very choreographed there. Sorry, I'll get us back on topic. I mean, it's pretty much just after that we do have some high drama, and then I'm afraid to say I would dock a burger for this, because I felt the tension got a bit deflated because our psychiatrist basically comes along to say, yeah, film's over.
Yeah.
Film's over. Oh yeah, she's gonna be fine.
Yeah. Oh, there was something I wanted to add to that last scene when his girlfriend's like, or his wife is there with a needle in her neck. Like, why does he just leave her lying there? Like, wouldn't he try to like take it out or something? He just sort of. It was almost as if he thought she was dead, and he was just leaving her on the bed, you know. And
I think he thought she was, though. That was how I read it.
Yeah. But then in the next scene, it's just like, oh, your wife's going to be okay.
Yeah, she's going to make a full recovery. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Spine hasn't been severed, or the nerve endings in the spine have.
Yeah, but you'd think like if he thought she was dead, there'd be a scene where, he sees her lying there, and then someone comes in and she like recovers, and you get that sort of relief from him. Or maybe he sees her in bed and her eyes open a bit, and he realizes that she's still alive. There's usually that sort of scene when they think they're dead, and then you get a little bit of relief from them.
Yeah, or even if he just feels her breathing.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been
something
good.
Along those lines.
A bit of professional, because he has he should know that really as kind of a professional, I suppose.
Our man doesn't check the pulses, as demonstrated with the hit and run victim. He just looks at them and is like, yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, looks like a goner.
But it had already been explained to him that he puts the needle in the neck and they're still alive. Like there was a whole scene where the doctor guy explains that to him, or the detective, or whoever it was. So, like, surely when he saw the needle in her neck, he would have thought, oh, she might still be alive, actually, just paralyzed. But he didn't really make anything of that.
No. Well, this is our psycho ending. The psychiatrist tells us everything that happened.
Yeah.
The girlfriend's okay, and the guy confessed, and he became paranoid because he got cucked. Wasn't even given a Lego set to build while the chap came in. They hadn't warmed up the cushion on the watching chair. I don't know how this stuff works. I don't know.
There wasn't a Nintendo Switch waiting for him on the table.
Oh no, the Switch. Marsha, the bull's eating all the Pringles again, etc., etc. Sorry, cheap jokes, folk. Cheap jokes. I'll be honest. The psychiatrist could have said absolutely anything at this point. I didn't feel it was particularly grounded in what we saw. Brundlefly, not as much, but I tell you, I really liked that the Ip Man movies. Someone put me onto those recently, and I watched them. I loved those. And what's the other one? Warrior with Tom Hardy and Joel guy who is in absolutely everything. Help me out. Who is that man? Do you guys know that film?
Sorry. Warrior? No.
Oh, really? It's basically a UFC film. It's really good. And it's a 12, but they managed to you wouldn't really notice it's a 12. I was
Mm.
really impressed with it. What's his name? Anyway. Sorry, folks. Sorry, I got distracted by that. Yeah. Basically, if I'm criticizing this, I'd say the explanation could have been basically anything. You know, like the guy was originally an entomologist and got, you know, thrown off, and then did he enjoyed the from his masseuse work. He liked manipulating, he liked controlling bodies, and he decided that he wanted to go further, that they needed to be paralyzed, etc., etc., etc. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds.
They could have said anything. I did not expect nymphomaniac wife. Thank you, Joe. Yes, Joel Edgerton, that guy. Using kinky boots as well. Man's got a cinematic range. What? I'm varied. Yeah. Any further thoughts on this? On this scene explaining what had been going on?
Not really. I'm pretty much with you in there. Oh yeah, no, it's time to just give you a reason so that you can go away and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't really paying it. Like this was just sort of the bit of fluff at the end of the movie that sort of wrapped it up. I wasn't really, you know, the action was over. I wasn't really paying attention too much. You know, I didn't really care about the motivation of the killer. To be honest, it was just like, oh yeah, here we go. It's the end. You know.
I felt like this was put in because of a lack of confidence in their own storytelling. It's almost like to sort of snap you back into the film. Like if you didn't get it, this is the reason why. Well, yeah, you just tell us during the film and do it constructively. This film didn't do that, and yeah,
you needed like a Robson Green character, just sort of psychoanalyzing the guy as the movie went along, and you know, he's trying to immobilize him because he thinks this, and maybe he's this kind of guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I mean, look, profilers, for example, would be having someone doing a profiling, as like you say, as the film progresses, would have been really, really good.
Yeah,
and like profilers tend to be remarkably accurate when it comes to describing potential killers when they do eventually get found. One of the biggest examples that I can think of that springs to mind is Richard Trenton Chase. The profile of him pretty much 100% accurate, spare like one or two minor details.
I wonder, I don't know how close, like how well known the whole profiling thing was at this point.
Well, to be fair, yeah, no, that's a good point actually, because Richard Trenton Chase happened after this. That was in the sort of like late 70s that took place.
Yeah,
and his case was one of the first that FBI profilers used as like a template for future cases. Yeah, okay, maybe not so much then.
I see it a lot more as just like it's following Psycho. It's learned from Psycho, but done it in highly stylized way. But I think it takes a long time for you to get to a kind of Billy Loomis. It's a lot scarier if there's no motive, Sid. Kind of delivery.
Yeah.
I'm hooked on the Scream reference. We're bringing it back. Okay.
Make up all those lost episodes.
Exactly. There was just something earlier, Sue. You asked if we'd seen The Visit. I have. I don't know about you guys.
I haven't.
Okay.
I feel like that's one of those films where I saw the trailer and kind of could guess what was going to happen. I think.
Yeah, it's got a nice reveal. I won't spoil it, but it's from M. Night Shyamalan doing a bit of a comeback, and I quite enjoyed it. I've been thinking about Shyamalan a fair bit recently, thinking I want to revisit his early stuff.
Is it the one where they go and visit their grandparents?
That's the one.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen a trailer for it, but I don't think I've seen the film.
Yes, no, I have seen that film.
Yeah, it's
I have seen it. Yes, I like it.
Yeah, it impressed me. I think it's very minimal, and it knows it's minimal. But I quite enjoyed it for what it was, and it, as I said, it's made me want to revisit. Members have seen I've got a long list of videos at the moment to work on, so I'm not saying it's coming anytime soon, but there is going to be a Shyamalan retrospective. Fez, you know, I already got a gay reading into this film. I already identified 2 suspected inverts. I wouldn't let you down. All right. Well, we should probably move on to, I'd say, closing thoughts and scores, seeing as we're very much on Super Nanny's good side at the moment. So I will give you a moment. Have your thoughts. Maybe TCG, if you would like to give us your thoughts and score first. And of course, chat, if you managed to watch the film, if you did your homework, then let us know if you liked it. If you didn't manage to see it, let us know if you're intrigued. I'd like to know if you say, yeah, I wouldn't mind checking this out now. And now I will. Oh, and I should say, if anyone is new here, we use the out of 12 burgers system for reasons long lost in the past. But I will now hand over to TCG. Thank you.
No worries. So this film was a huge improvement on the last 2 films that we've watched. And I'm also quite glad to know that this is kind of what giallo movies are. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what the story is, you know, it's your simple whodunit story. I can get behind that. What this film doesn't do quite well, though, is tell the story in a sort of structured format. As you guys have mentioned, there are several points where the film sort of derails itself. Certain characters who could have been utilized more weren't. Which was for me seems to be a bit of a reoccurring problem with these giallo films, because of the awesome black detective who could have been, who should have been one of the main protagonists was in one scene, and that was it. Similar to like the catapult, just being in a couple of scenes. I would have loved to have seen him being called from the bar. That would have been fantastic. You know. But yeah, in terms of the killer, I have to applaud them for that. I love the balls on them to go with the blind person, but then frustratingly they cop out and say he was faking the blindness. So yeah, it was good, I suppose, because I suppose it put conscious bias to the test. If you're thinking, oh, a blind person can't be a killer, I can totally understand why the detective's dismissing him for questioning. And then you're like, okay, actually it was him. It's a very artistic film, very stylish, minimalistic gore. Didn't need it because it made up in other areas. I can think of a couple of areas. So yeah, I mean, in terms of what I've given the last 2 films, it has to be higher. I would say, I'd say a 5 burgers, not too much ketchup, but it has been delicately made. But part of the structure does fall off a little bit, so you're getting a few sort of bits of loose lettuce falling off the side onto the plate. Yeah. It's mostly the story structure that sort of falls down for me. I could have forgiven a lot of other things had it not been for just its incredible ability for me to lose concentration. It didn't have me sort of hooked, and the explanation at the end was, I feel like it was very sort of very much inserted because I think maybe there was a bit of acknowledgement from the producers or the writers that I don't think we've fleshed this out quite as well as we would have liked. So yeah, 5, but it's an improvement.
Definitely. Joe, just to make sense of that, the Black Detective was a guy in the last week's show, City of the Living Dead, who came in, was awesome, and then never appeared again. And we were like, you should have been the main character, gosh darn it, he was so good. Anyway,
he absolutely should have been.
He was the catapult of the last movie. And I've also noticed Sue asked about schedule in advance. I'll announce the movie after our scores, but you have made a really good point there. I was previously announcing the full arc in advance, and I think I need to get back to that, to be honest, because I think it'll probably be helpful to people. So I will make an effort to do that in advance and restart announcing the entire arc. So it'll probably be helpful. Okay. Shrouded, your score and closing thoughts, please.
Well, as we've been going through this, I feel like I've enjoyed this discussion more than I enjoyed the movie, almost. Like, I feel like you've picked out all the best bits and all the best characters. And what I found with the film was I really enjoyed the first 2 killings, and then after that, some bits it started to become a bit of a slog to get through. It sort of lost pace for me a little bit. You know, you've picked out all the cool characters, but there's a lot of just like walking around in the city, and I don't know. I did enjoy it, but I felt like it sort of tailed off towards the second half a little bit. You know, it started out really strong, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the gore. I think maybe they needed just something at the end, like another really gory, violent kill, just to top the movie off. Just maybe the last kill could be really violent, and sort of bookend the film with some nice gore, just for people like me who like that sort of thing. But it was enjoyable, and maybe I'll give it like maybe a 7. But the 7 burgers out of 12. But like the first 2 burgers are the ones with all the toppings on, all the cheese and all the extras, and then the last 5 are just like sort of plain burgers that are tasty, but you get filled up on the first 2. So
all the ketchup in the first 2 bites.
Yeah. So I mean, I enjoyed it, but like I said, I feel like this. I like beers, and sometimes you get beers like this where the first few sips are really delicious, and then by the time you get to the end of the beer, you're kind of a bit sick of it. You're a bit like, oh, I don't want another one of them.
Yeah, I know that.
But the first few sips, are like, oh god, this is the best thing I've ever drank. And you start to drink a bit more, and you're like, oh, this is a bit sort of samey. And get towards the end, you're like, I'm glad that's over with. But yeah, it's a fun movie. But yeah, like I say, it's the first half hour or so is probably where all the action is for me.
It's a fair point. You're sort of robbed of the catharsis of the final kill. The final kill is meant to be the bloodiest one.
Yeah, isn't there something about like how you're supposed to pace slasher films? I suppose these rules sort of came out in the 80s, sort of, where you've got to have like some, a good kill at the beginning to sort of get everyone involved, and then you have a bit of a lull in the middle, and then you have something at the ends to, an exciting conclusion with a bit more gore and a bit more action.
Where you finally reveal the deformed face of the killer.
I mean, I didn't mind all the bits where I lost track of the plot and it all went a bit weird. I quite enjoyed that. I like that about these films, where they feel a bit disjointed and a bit. You sort of don't know what's going on in some bits. I didn't mind that really, but it was just it just lost its pace a little bit for me. So yeah, I knocked some points off of that really.
Out of interest from that comment, do you like David Lynch?
I haven't seen much of his stuff, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of them. It's one of them people. It's one of them directors that people always tell me to watch, and then I think, oh yeah, I will, and then I never get around to it.
Well, that's fair enough. Just from you saying like you're okay with like getting lost in the film a bit and being confused with it, just made me think. I should wrap this up before we incur the wrath of Super Nanny, who comes and strikes us down at 2.5 hours. You guys have captured it a lot. I think we're seeing something influenced by Psycho, being very creative, extremely stylish. I mean, I'm not sure if I made it clear, but this is apparently very influenced by Dario Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and really working off that. So, we haven't watched that yet, but I still see a lot of originality in this, a lot of creativity, gorgeous style, gorgeous cast, and a nice bit of a developed character that we can follow. And that all helps when I get completely lost in what the heck is going on in this film. Yes, confusing due to just, I think, being rushed, but I could go with it. So tough. Harrion would tear the story apart, mostly for just being incoherent not incoherent, but just blooming hard to follow. And I think I do have to drop points for that, but I come probably I'm torn between a 6 and a 7, and I think I probably lean towards a 6. It's not terrible. I would lean towards watching it rather than not watching it. But there are a few things that just like a tiny fix would do it, like really give us some gore at the end, or fill in those interconnecting scenes, or give us an explanation that makes a bit more sense, or have him actually be blind, etc., etc., etc. All these little fixes that we've talked about would definitely push it up and over into a sort of a 7 or an 8 for me. But I like it. I actually liked the music, controversially. So
I like some of the music. It was just they had the same track played over and over, and it got a bit much.
Yeah, so I think I have to be harsh. I'm probably going to go. I'm going with a 6. 6 burgers on this one. Good amount of ketchup on the first burger, but I want all my burgers to have ketchup, frankly. Although the BAPs were outstanding. Now, having brought things to a close, I will announce horror homework. I see the question. We have covered The Thing, Sue, which I was very happy to do. The Shining is an interesting one. I've been scared about talking about that because I just want to have a good angle on it, basically. I do have a video I will be working on about it, and we probably will cover it at some point on stream, but it's just me wanting to be able to do the film justice. But you can find all the past streams in the Double Feature Horror Show playlist. And I would also... Right. Horror homework. We're doing a giallo month. There's no way we can avoid it. And we wouldn't want to avoid it. We are doing Suspiria. So Suspiria, it had to be done. We're doing Dario Argento's original 1970s Suspiria. If you want bonus points, watch the 2018 remake. It's controversial. It's one of those films that I really enjoyed, but I had no analysis of it. Actually analysing it, it might be a bit more subversive, but I was very, very appreciative of it. So, yeah. You guys probably knew I was going to do that. So it's going to be Suspiria. That'll be a big treat. And then the week after is Cabin in the Woods. And Harrion is coming back on for that because I literally have a checklist of movies that I've been working him and TCG through for about 2 years, so that we could cover everything referenced. So it's time to finally do it. Sue, it is Suspiria. I'll type it in here, and it's Dario Argento. And I can't see what. It's 1977. You should find it quite easy to find. It is a big name in giallo, and we're going to cover it next week. I will leave it there, but massive thanks to TCG and Shrouded Hand.
Pleasure as always.
Yeah, I'm really glad. You guys were great on this, and also so reassuring when I was completely lost.
Yeah, I was one. I'm always one of these people who gets lost watching things, so I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah.
It's reassuring, isn't it? Yeah. Fez has heard me build up to this for a long time. The NREB. Okay. Yeah, give it a watch. You can find Black Belly of the Tarantula on BitChute. You can find it on Odyssey. I think you can pay for it on YouTube. So it's not too bad, but Suspiria will be very easy to find. And the NREB, since you joined, however you want to message me, let me know the film you'd like me to cover. Because I just as a bit of a payback, okay? Just when you think of a film, let me know. All right. I think that is everything from us, folks. So both Shrouded Hand and TCG have done a real horror versus real horror with me, so maybe go and check their videos. Shrouded Hands is on Ghostwatch and TCG's is on Ivan Milat. Check those out and sub to them if you aren't subbed already. They're fantastic. You've heard them tonight. They're erudite. I'm kind of blathering at this point, so I should probably draw it off.
I'll send some link. I'll put my link in the chat now for my latest video.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yes. And both channels are linked in the description below. But, hey, Gatsby. That's Gatsby telling me I definitely have to log off. Okay.
Gatsby. No, I can translate that. You misunderstood. Gatsby said subscribe to that crime guy.
Absolutely. And, welcome to everyone who's... I've seen some new people in the chat, and it's really nice. Good on you getting in there, chatting, saying hi. It's always good to see the chat lively. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I'm going to end this here. So, thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Tschüss.